Stay tuned as we get an economic development update on this edition of Welcome to Groton. Welcome to Groton. I'm Cindy Olsen, and today we have with us Paige Bronk, Economic and Community Development Manager. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome, thank you.
Thanks. So listen, I've seen your awesome economic development commercial, so I'm really happy you're here because I want to know so much more about you guys and everything you do. But can we start with about you?
Sure. I have worked for the town for about 3.5 years in my capacity. And to some degree, I think economic development is the peak of my career. I've worked for over 25 years in a number of places, New England, Savannah, outside of Lexington, Kentucky.
Wow.
Returned back here, but mainly in coastal areas, and kind of blending the economic with some environmental, I think, is a good fit for me.
Definitely. So what's your background?
My background actually started in the environmental field.
Okay.
Geology, environmental studies. Again, I grew up on the coast, Ipswich, Massachusetts, and then I kind of migrated more into community development as a planner, dealing with zoning. For a number of years, I worked for the city of Newport.
Awesome.
And then I've migrated more into the economic, I think mainly because a lot of the redevelopment that's taking place these days, it's less about sprawl and more about trying to use the properties you have and redeveloping.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. So what drew you to Groton?
Well, I actually believe it's its location.
Nice.
As I said, much of my experience has been in Rhode Island. I envision Groton as somewhat of an extension of Rhode Island, being 2 towns over from Westerly.
Right, yeah.
But I think it's a right time, right place with a real transformation that's taking place here. We have the whole electric boat story and Pfizer, but I really believe that Groton has more coming than it's ever experienced before. That's quite attractive for me as a professional.
I think that's very true, and I'm with you on the hopefulness of that. With that said, how healthy is Groton's economy right now?
I'd say it's quite healthy, and I'm going to make a couple comments. And
Yeah, please do.
I think for the most part, Groton has been on a slow and steady path.
Okay.
And we completed a market analysis a few years ago, 2016, and that's the way they described it. So when the recession hit, we weren't hit as much as some other communities, but we haven't been a fast grower either. In terms of the current economy, we have 40,000 residents and 26,000 jobs. That's a pretty high number.
It's very high.
So we're basically a net producer of jobs. We're a magnet of workers, investment. Also, our unemployment's really low. It's way under 3%. State average is about 3.5%. So I would say overall fairly good.
Right.
And I know we're going to talk about electric boat a little bit, but really that's a major catalyst for a lot of the change that's taking place these days. It's not just about those who work at electric boat, but how that story is influencing other developments that are on the uptake within Groton.
We can head right into that then. Let's. So one of the things you said is we have 40,000 live here, 26,000 jobs. But my first question is going to be, how can we get more people who work at EB and Pfizer to live in Groton?
That is probably our largest
biggest problem?
Challenge that we tackle. So I mentioned that our economy is great, and it is. The downside, to be frank, is that 80% of the jobs are held by commuters.
Wow,
And
80%.
80%. Now, maybe an employer, it's not as concerning to them if people show up and they work, people are happy, what have you, but
Right.
the problem is if you follow the dollar, if you imagine the dollar that is earned in
Right.
Groton, if it's carried somewhere else, you don't get the benefit of recycling that dollar, and that is really where a market and economy will grow. You want to support your restaurants, you want to support
Your
retail,
stores, yeah.
entertainment, and housing.
Yes.
So all of that really is a driver for the consumer, and we need to make sure that that 80% number is decreased. One of the ways we're going to do it in the future is by offering some better housing.
Okay. I know that we were talking before the show about enticing and attracting things. But with Electric Boat and their successes this year, and well, currently, and the associated side businesses that are happening with them,
Right.
how is that impacting the Groton economy? And is that something you guys are working on to even grow more off of?
Definitely. I think the first thought regarding Electric Boat, 1/3 of their current workforce is retirement eligible.
Oh.
So that is also a positive, though, because some of them are quite skilled at what they do. It's quite possible we might take some of those retirees who might look to do some side ventures and businesses of their own.
Oh, cool.
Secondly, we are trying to make Groton kind of an epicenter for undersea technology. We all know that we're the submarine capital of the world,
Right.
but it doesn't stop there.
Right.
There are other businesses that play in that arena that might do some business with Electric Boat, but might not.
Right.
I'll give you one example. They're located in Groton, Thayer Mahan.
Okay, yeah.
They're focused on undersea robotics. And they are a growing company in town that we're trying to promote. So that's an example of this new model we're trying to create. One other point I wanted to mention, this area, Groton and New London, was selected as an innovative community by the state. There are 4
Oh, nice.
in the state, Stamford, New Haven, Hartford, and Groton, New London.
Awesome.
One of the projects that we have, it's called a Maritime and Naval Consortium, and it's exactly that, to basically grow this network of small to medium-sized companies that are focused exclusively on maritime and undersea technology.
I think that's brilliant. And I mean, I'm a Navy brat, so I'm all about the submarine and everything, but for a long time, it's all anybody knew about us.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you guys were rebranding, especially when you came up with the video and the new logo, I love that the submarine is still part of it, but
Yes.
yet not the focal point.
Right.
Because I feel like that's how our community is. Yes, we all recognize that the Naval Submarine Base is a large part of Groton, but
Right.
it's definitely not the focal point, and we have all those other things. So I think that's fascinating. You guys are having that happen and working on that.
Yeah, I'm wearing my vest today
love it.
with the logo.
Love it, yep.
I have to give a little plug. It's the community that drives the success of Groton, and we had an option in doing this, whether we were going to hire a so-called expert to design it for us, or whether or not we would do a community contest.
Oh,
And this basically is a product of a community contest. And we had some that said Groton's a submarine capital of the world. That's true. But
Right.
many of the other ones that came in and the ultimate selection dealt more with Groton as a community with a lot of offerings.
A
Our
lot.
history, our downtown area, quality of life, parks, recreation, etc. So the subtle submarine, that was intentional.
I love it.
It's not to lose our history and our identity,
Right now.
but to show that we're growing in multiple ways.
I love it because we are so much more than just that one thing. I think we're multifaceted, and like you said, it's a huge community. And I love that you guys went to the community to have that created.
Yes.
It's awesome. I give it a thumbs up.
Thank you.
We have a few more minutes before we head to break, but with EB and the associated side expansions, and our 1/3 of them retiring soon.
Right.
How's that play into the grand list in 5 years?
Well, EB is expanding on their own.
Yeah.
They're growing. We know that story. I'm not going to go into depth on that front, but they obviously have multi-year contracts. They're hiring, I believe last year, roughly 800 to 1,000 people here in Groton. The largest growth is the retirees, though. You think about the replacement people that are coming in. And as a result of those numbers, mainly because of the retirees to some degree, we're bringing in new workers.
Right, that's exciting.
Just compare and contrast, let's say a 28-year-old new worker to a 62-year-old worker. Think and compare and contrast housing, shopping, dining,
totally,
retail, entertainment. And that will be the single largest driver of change within our economy. You asked about the grand list.
Yeah.
But it's those people that are coming that a developer and a retailer look at, and that will create new change for new stores and growth to grand list and housing, et cetera. That's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, because your target population as a business owner, you want to know what you're looking at.
Definitely.
We have a vast, amazing community here. So let's see, one other question here. We talked about getting people to live here more.
Yes.
So we're working on that. But what kind of businesses are you trying to attract with all these factors?
Well, we already talked about some of the undersea
love that.
companies that we're trying to attract, or at least become the epicenter of activity. I think food type establishments are a category that we're focused on.
Okay.
And we've already seen some of that growth.
Yep.
You know, Mystic, downtown, we're seeing some new fooderies. Mystic Cheese is they just actually had their opening on Saturday. Different breweries.
Yep.
So I think fooderies are something that we're pushing.
Okay.
Certain retailers, which might be a surprise to some people, but you know, when I grew up and you go to the mall, everything is big.
Right.
Big floor plans. Well, the world has changed.
Yeah, we don't have that anymore.
I don't think we're ever going to get away from bricks and mortar, but certainly they've been downsized. They don't carry inventory like they used to. So actually the model that you see in Mystic might be more prevalent through Groton over time as we redevelop our shopping centers. Small footprints with specialty retail, that's what we're targeting. Someone that doesn't require a lot of space, but they offer a specialty product.
I like that.
Not a business, and I don't know if we'll get into it at some other point, but housing is huge. It's kind of a chicken and egg thing. You need the people to live here to drive your retail needs.
Yes.
But you need the stores in order to attract the people to live here. It actually works in tandem. But I actually think that housing, contemporary housing, apartments, condos, is a large driver of our future economy, and I put it in kind of a business category.
Well, it is, and especially from your department's point of view, you have to look at it that way.
Definitely. So, and that helps us with the 80%.
I know, right? Wow. So there's so much, but Groton has so much to offer. So I think that's a thing. Again, being somebody who moved into the area at one point, I know that parentals, you know, you look at where am I potentially moving my family to?
Right.
If I'm looking in the area, I want Groton, do I want Ledger, do I want Waterford, East Lyme?
Yeah.
Oh, but Groton has this, and this. So I think it's great. Paige, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back to talk about more. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with Welcome to Groton.
To be self-evident that all men are created equal.
The torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
The American dream need not forever be deferred.
This is the richest, the most powerful country.
Son, love is like the ocean. You have to tread the waters.
Dad,
That's not the kind of help I needed. Jessica, will you go to prom with me?
Yes.
Thousands of teens in foster care can't wait to share their first with you.
Hi, and welcome back to Welcome to Groton. We're here with Paige. We were talking about the economic development of Groton and how wonderful you guys are doing. I do know that you guys do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people have no idea about.
Right.
Can we touch on that for a second
Sure.
before we head into a question?
Yes.
How much?
We work clearly for the town of Groton.
Yes.
Our field is a little different. You know, it's not that we don't want to tell everybody all the great news, but some of the projects we work on certainly require a certain level of confidentiality.
Yes.
And it's not that we don't want to share all the information, but case in point, if we're in negotiations with somebody, it's not like buying a house. Some of the decision points on a complex project are quite long, and a lot of them are moving targets.
Ooh.
And we're not exactly ready to put it out there as we're in the midst of finalizing discussions. But it is our desire, once we get to that point, is to engage the public and let them know as soon as we can. We're hoping to do that.
I think that's great because I think sometimes too often, especially this day and age, we are given too much information too soon, and then it
Yes.
causes too much misinformation because everybody's spreading it. And I think you guys are doing a wonderful job.
We try. At the same time, I also realize when there's no information, people will make up information.
That's
and it's
true,
usually
too.
inaccurate. Our goal is to try to roll out what we can at the appropriate times. We definitely don't want to hold back.
Okay. So with that said, how do you feel about talking about the 3 vacant schools in Groton?
I would love to talk
Okay,
about
good.
them. Yeah.
So what's the update on those right now?
Well, basically, we have 3 schools: the Mystic Education Center, also Groton Heights,
Yep.
and the Seeley School. I would say in that order. We often will go through a request for proposals in order to try to entice developer interest. We did that with Mystic Education Center and Groton Heights. And I used the analogy of a house before. Some of these projects are not like buying a house. People might say, I like this house and I put an offer in for this house and we close in 30 days.
It's not like
it
that.
is not like that. Many of these properties are big. They are attracting investors who are going to be expending millions of dollars. There's required environmental remediation.
I was going to say.
There's infrastructure that has to be upgraded. Oftentimes there are multiple partners. Case in point, Mystic Education Center.
Okay.
It's owned by the state.
Right.
Clearly the town has a vested interest, and we have the developer.
Yeah.
We usually do a number of showings. We do a lot of marketing, promotions, advertising, and we want to make sure that we basically create a feeding frenzy so that
There
we
you
have
go.
as
I like
many
that.
people interested as we can, because we're going to get the best product, the best offering when we do that.
Right.
So specific to Mystic Education Center,
Yeah.
we do have a preferred developer. We've been meeting an executive session with
Nice.
the council. We are dealing with some final details at this point, and we'll have some legal agreements. This spring, we will be reaching out to the community at large and trying to engage with them in moving this forward.
Exciting.
Groton Heights.
Yes.
That's also quite exciting. Very similar in terms of our marketing, which takes months to get through
I'm
if
sure.
we're serious about it. The worst thing would be if we issue an RFP and we haven't really
And it doesn't-
fostered any interest, and then no one submits, or we get some bad submittals. We have some great submittals on Groton Heights, great submittals on Mystic Education Center, which puts us in a position of strength to actually negotiate and get the best thing for the community. I will say The city of Groton is also a partner of ours.
I was going to say, how does that play into it all?
They have been at the table all the
Great.
way through the interviews, all the way through our discussions.
Awesome.
And I think that we are side by side moving this project forward. That will become more public this spring as well, and I think everyone's going to be quite pleased.
Oh, good.
It does fit within, I'd say, an economic model that we're trying to promote within Groton.
Oh, good.
The last one, the Sealy School.
Yeah.
Actually, before that, Groton Heights, we're going to retain that building.
Oh, we are?
That's probably the number one question people ask. So that building's going to be retained. Same with Mystic Ed. Sealy, ironically, is a younger building. However, they didn't build them to last as much when they were constructed in the 50s and 60s. Likely that building will be demolished.
And then
We are anticipating that we will have submittals this winter. We are using a commercial broker to help us with that.
Okay.
And there's tremendous interest on that project.
That's
But all of these are going to be advancing pretty quickly in 2019. By mid-2019, people are going to know what's happening.
I like it. It's all very interesting.
Yes.
And a lot of stuff that I wouldn't have realized. I really like that you are working, that we are working side by side with Groton City.
Yes.
It's for the community, so why wouldn't we? It just makes sense. Kind of speaking on that, the old Hamburger Hill
Right.
used to be called the Miracle Mile. Can we get back to that? Like,
we
are we
can
trying
try.
to get? Yeah.
Maybe we need a different name. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that predates me, but retail as a whole has been basically constricting nationwide. It's not just a phenomenon in Groton. And I believe that Miracle Mile used to be that retail strip that people would go to.
Yes.
And for me, I look at a potential of getting back to a really successful corridor, but it won't look the same. But I think that's okay.
I think it is too, yeah.
We don't necessarily have to have big box lining the roadway and being as automobile dependent. Retail these days is becoming smaller, as I already
Yep.
described. There's a lot more mixed use development. And
Okay.
what I mean by that is that you may actually have the retail, the dining, the entertainment, and the housing
All in one.
all in the same area.
I like it.
That's really our ultimate goal for that corridor. And maybe we have a lot of EB workers that live, work, and play in this area.
Right there,
So
yeah.
I don't necessarily think the success of that corridor is going to be lots of traffic and activity. The success would be vibrancy, where
Yes.
people are working in Groton and living there and shopping there and dining and eating.
Yeah.
That would be true success.
And
I
not
think,
leaving Groton and going somewhere else to do all that.
correct.
Okay, I
We
love
want
it.
to keep them here.
Yes, we do. So what are some incentives that you have done to create the attractiveness to these businesses? You're talking about these smaller businesses, these more specific businesses.
We have a standard tax incentive is our abatement, or they call it a fixed assessment.
Okay.
We use that in some ways for a significant property that might actually be looking to grow. I think the most significant incentive we use, though, is our Economic Assistance Fund.
Oh, okay.
And it's a fairly unique fund. A lot of communities don't have it. The idea is that we will help with certain infrastructure upgrades.
Oh,
If someone were to need an upgrade to a sewer line or water or electric, things that would be somewhat in a public realm, but it would help them reduce risk and get that project to move
Get it
forward.
going, yeah.
We have a small program, and we partner with property owners who are sometimes expanding on behalf of a tenant. That's probably the number one incentive that we use and we're
Okay.
most proud of. And people really appreciate it. It's a
Yeah.
grant program to a developer and trying to help them. And then the last thing I'd say about it is the intent isn't necessarily for that business, but for the property. In the event that business were ever to leave,
Yeah,
We've
that's-
upgraded the property so that when we have it marketed and reused, it'll be at a higher standard.
Right, which is what we want.
Yeah.
Okay. TIF real quick.
Yep.
I had to look this up. Can you give us, we only have a couple minutes left, but can you tell us real quick, what is a TIF in reference to economic development?
Sure. You asked about incentives a minute ago.
Yep.
This is the ultimate incentive. This
Okay.
is like incentives on steroids, so to
Okay.
speak. What is TIF? Probably the simplest way to explain it is if you take a tax assessment for a piece of property that's not yet improved
Okay,
versus the tax assessment after improvement,
after it's all done.
all
Okay.
done. The difference between the two, that amount can actually work to the benefit of redeveloping the project. I'll give you
Okay.
one example. If a property needed a sewer line to be extended, for example, and it was going to be quite costly,
Yeah.
and you knew what that final project was going to be, it's going to be this intensive development. We know what the taxes will be in the future.
Okay.
We can actually work into the financing a way to help that project move along and get all of the public improvements that we desire using the differential
that.
between the previous taxes and the future anticipated taxes.
So it goes right back into the community, goes right back into Groton.
It does. Now, there are some people who are nervous. They want to know, are we using public financing for this? We actually don't.
It's just the same monies?
What we do is we will credit a developer back after that upgrade is taking place.
Okay.
If they don't do the upgrade,
Then
then
they
we
don't-
don't have any credit to put back. And we do it through what we call a credit enhancement agreement. So it's
Okay.
their money, they make the initial investment in accordance with the plan we all agreed to.
Okay.
And if you do what you said, we'll credit you something back.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so, oh my gosh, Paige, we have so much more to talk about. We're gonna have to have you back. I know we don't have, but like probably a minute left here. So let me ask you this real quick. Airport,
Yes.
how's that play into our economic community development right now?
Huge. I'm
Huge.
kind of a big picture individual. You know, New London's really proud of their port, and
Right,
Groton's
yeah.
really proud of the airport. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a system.
Okay.
We have a great transportation system. We have water, we have airport, we have port, we have train.
Mm-hmm.
All of that combined together really is an amazing thing for this region and for Groton. So it's difficult for me to just pull out the airport alone
Right, yeah.
because it's part of an amazing transportation asset that we have here. I also look at the proximity of the airport to our
Oh,
downtown.
yeah.
Clearly, we're trying to promote downtown. We're hoping that's going to be a TIF
yeah.
in the future. Airport's right next to it. And there is talk about some growth at the airport. I
Oh,
know
good.
people that have been here a long time, they measure its success on whether or not we have commercial service. But
Yeah.
the airport has 40,000 flights a year.
Which people
40,000
don't see that.
for
Yeah.
non-commercial. Pfizer Electric Boat, sub base, casinos.
So it's successful, just not in the way of commercial airline.
Exactly, but
Okay.
I believe in the future there are discussions about having some limited commercial service. So I think that's icing on the cake to a successful airport we already have today.
Awesome. Okay. Like I said, Paige, we have so much more to talk about, but if somebody wanted to get in touch with their department, how would they reach out to you guys?
I think the best way actually is to go to our website, which is exploremoregroton.com.
Okay.
Definitely encourage people to check that out.
Okay. And Paige told me to tell you all, if you want to give him a call,
Sure.
his number is 860-448-4095. Paige.
Please call.
Yeah, please call, he says. Thank you so much.
Thank
like
you.
I said, we have more to talk about, but we'll have to have you back. We'll have to have a part
Sounds
two.
good.
Appreciate you being on Welcome to Groton, and thank you and your team for everything you guys are doing to, make us even more spectacular here in Groton.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time on Welcome to Groton.